Right now on social media, you are renting attention space. I think there's a huge opportunity that people are missing with the current digital landscape of feeling like you're getting something in return for action. And we need to get back to the basics of that relationship building. The key to sustainable business, in our estimation, is building that emotional capital, because that emotional capital will blossom into additional revenue.
Welcome to Curiously Stuck, the show where we unpack the stuck moments, curious leaps, and behind-the-scene pivots of becoming a business leader, especially when you never quite planned on being in the big seat. I'm your host, Chelsea Stuck, former sales manager, now brand strategist, and this episode is for food service leaders in the C-suite, managing sales, or building brands. Maybe you're in manufacturing, distribution, could be a rep owner, or even worlds far outside of food service, trying to make sense of the future of your business. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a hot topic at the intersection of tech, sales, and customer loyalty with someone who's rethinking what it means to build a brand people belong to. You've probably heard the old line that the transaction is the finish line, but what if actually it's just the start? That's the belief behind Magnetic, the company co-founded by today's guest, Tyler Stambaugh, who's challenging the norms of how brands connect with their customers. He's joining me today to explore how technology, data, and community can transform everyday buyers into true advocates. Insights that matter just as much for sales professionals in food service as they do in all forms of marketing. So let's get curious together. Tyler, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a long time coming.
I was about to say the same exact thing. We've been talking about this for a while, so I'm super pumped to chat with you today.
I know. So a little background for everybody. Tyler and I met, did we just meet for the first time this year or was it last fall?
It was last fall. It was last fall. Yeah.
Yeah. So we met through Mark Schaefer's Uprising. Like he gets so many plugs. I keep like cracking up because all the people that I've been bringing on, that's how I met them. But we instantly connected over, our love for data and tech and marketing and just rethinking outside the bubble. And truth be told, Tyler was the first one where I was like, okay, listen, I know I should know this, but please explain blockchain to me. And he sat down and had a conversation with me that I would like to say,
over drinks,
all of it.
Over drinks. So I'm sure parts are fuzzy. It's a complicated topic to begin with.
It is a complicated topic. So I'm going to pretend like, yes, I totally know how it all works now, but That's neither here nor there. We're so excited to have you, Tyler. So part of why I brought Tyler on today and wanted to talk to him is that he's doing something really cool with his company, Magnetic. And I've pulled Tyler into rep test kitchens. I've, seen him down at South by Southwest. We've had a lot of scratching down on napkins, ideas, and things like that. And I just thought it'd be a great chance to really just start peeling back the layers as to, how we can use tech for customer loyalty, for connecting with our customers in different ways, and also rethinking platforms and the way in which that we interact. So this is definitely a hot topic. There's a lot of opinions out there on it. I'll be honest, I go back and forth all the time because of different people's levels of understanding, levels of commitment to marketing. I'm a strategist at heart, and I feel like I'm always writing the prescription to meet someone where they're at and pull them forward. Let's just say, without further ado, I think Tyler is thinking way further forward. I just want to, Tyler, give us just a little flavor for what you're doing and what you're thinking in Magnetic's world.
So I think one thing that we have been talking about a lot is building emotional capital with your prospects and your existing customers. And so what do I mean by that? So traditional loyalty today is very transactional. You can even think of the local coffee shop. Here's a punch card. You're not coming back necessarily because you love the barista or the coffee or anything like that, but you're kind of tethered to it because it's like, hey, this could be pretty good for me. I could save some money on something that I do habitually. And that is where a lot of traditional loyalty sits. But I think salespeople actually understand this concept a lot better than your traditional marketer, because especially if you're in B2B sales and doing a lot of large ticket stuff, it's all about the emotional capital. They will tell you it is not about the feature this and the price that. Yes, does that come into the logic of proving it out to make a decision? Yeah, but why do we really buy? We buy because of emotion, right? We probably buy because of the connection that we made with the salesperson because at some point products get so good that everything just becomes commoditized in a way. So how do you stand out? And so the big focus that we have at Magnetic is creating a system that allows you to build emotional capital in a way that's scalable. So kind of buzzy there, but this is really going back to basics.
Explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So
let's dig a little deeper.
Let's do a little history story. So let's go 25 years ago, before the internet really came to, and social media and email and all of this was being widely spread. How are you building a business? You were in person. You were seeing every single customer a lot of the times, right? Maybe you were doing some back and forth, but it was a lot of human to human contact and building a relationship, right? And then what happened?
Handshakes and golf outings. Come
on. Totally. And listen, we've come a long way in a lot of different ways. And I kind of lament because I love golf, but that's not how business is done a lot of times today in a lot of industries. So I would have loved that. But that aside, then entered the internet. And then we found a way to do scalable things, to sell in a way that we could do more with less and get our message out to more people, which was wonderful. It was incredible. But at the same time, it switched that lever over from relationship to transactional, because then you have platforms like Meta and Google that are basically like, hey, tell us the type of person you want to reach, and we'll go out and we track every little thing you do, so we know when you're ready to buy. So like, you don't have to worry about building that relationship. You can almost outsource that in a lot of different businesses, right? And so technology. And I think there's fatigue there. There's a real fatigue post-COVID, because COVID forced everybody to get online, right? I'm sure a lot of your customers, like in COVID era, like, whoa, we can't go do the thing. We can't do this. Like, oh my God, we need a strategy. Like, what are we going to do? And once you're down that rabbit hole, you're almost like, okay, I'm on the hamster wheel. Like, we got to keep going. And that's where everyone got to. And we're seeing this oversaturation, which is really fracturing the promise that the internet had before.
It's funny you say that, but I will definitely jump in on and lean into one of the things that I did not anticipate when I started Crave and started my business. So in my background, as a sales professional, so it's funny because like at heart, I'm a salesperson, probably that might be why my company has been successful as successful as it has been in the amount of time for kind of breaking the norm, doing something new, because I know how to do those activities. And that's just sort of how my brain works. That said, what I didn't anticipate is that COVID would really help. In particular, my main vertical is food service, and you're talking about manufacturers, you're talking about rep firms, you're talking about these businesses. And I know you've come along with me on some trips now to kind of, get to know our world.
Yeah.
And it is very, it's still a hand to pan. It's still a handshake
world.
And,
it totally is.
And all of a sudden, and a lot of that's just also because sort of how the restaurant industry works. I mean, there are some things like you need to touch, feel, you need to experience. How does this, the equipment, things like that. But what it did was suddenly force my entire industry to go, wait a minute, we don't show up on digital platforms,
right?
Very well. There were several large players who had always invested in it, and everyone kind of considered them the gold standard of marketing. But this forced every even small to medium business to say, oh crap, we need to be there. And so, we certainly rode that wave, and, it continues now. And so it's been cool the last couple trade shows I've been to really see the difference now, and everyone, even the large players, upping their game across the board in what they're doing in marketing. But to your very point is that now it's become so noisy, and there's so much content out there, and there's so many different, I don't know. It is becoming commoditized. It is getting a sea of same. And so I feel it and I hear it from clients of, how do I stand out? How do I reach my customers? How do I keep them sticky to me? So,
and I think like extending the history lesson on that, because what you're saying is like very relevant to where I'm about to bring us. We are now getting to that point with that saturation that you're talking about, where people are kind of tuning out. It's like, all right, I've seen 10 posts like this already. Like, I got the insight from the first one, like, fine. Right. And we need to get back to the basics of that relationship building, but we have new tech now. We have new human behaviors now. And so we need to adjust for that. We need solutions for that. Right now on social media, you are renting attention space. It is a feed. Sometimes your stuff gets sent, but the concept of a follower in modern social media is no longer what it was 10 years ago. And so Our stance is you need own spaces where you can directly engage with the people that you know are for you. And that takes a different level of thinking and going to market. And I think that it doesn't have to be exclusively online, because honestly, I don't want people to I don't want our solution to come to market and people are still on their phones hours a day. I don't like that world. It's not a world we want to see our kids grow up in, but we do want to be able to bridge in-person stuff with the benefits that you get from digital marketing, with the insights, with the ability to know someone's preferences based on what they opt into and want to tell you, right? And so I went to the I think it was a pizza themed test kitchen with you, and we're walking around and I'm seeing like the core of what this industry is, which is like people coming together, making food, talking about how it's being made, understanding the products. Those conversations are really where the magic happens. And then I zoom out with my point of view and I'm like, great, how are we capturing that? Is someone going back to their CRM and they're documenting that? No, they probably had 10 conversations that day and their brain is like doing whatever. And so Chelsea, you and I were coming up with this idea. It's like, hey, to go along with that conversation, let's have something quick, scannable, enter your email. That will, but not just like entering email for email's sake, because we're all very dodgy about our data too. But it's like, hey, you enjoyed talking to me about this? Hey, scan this thing. It's got a lot more information. It's got content made by Crave that's like pretty and engaging, and gives them a link back to the product. So the person who scans, who's interested in that product, can stash it away for later because we've got busy lives, right? But they can come back to it and reassess it. But on the business side, that conversation, which was worth its weight in gold, it has a backup plan. If that doesn't get into the CRM, if that doesn't get followed up on, you actually have a list of all these people that scan different things. And now you're actually creating an interest profile based on email of, hey, they liked this stove, they like this vent, right? And now if you go and reach out to them again, you can also be more relevant in that conversation, which we all know as salespeople is really the key to getting to the things you want to talk about and finding that shared interest that leads to a sale.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's funny, but it was magic when we were sitting there together going like, wait a minute, you have the tech. And I mean, I have the background in sales to know. I mean, hell, I'd be in a trade show and I had these notebooks where I was, feverishly taking down, what are the key topics that I spoke to this chain about? And, and to some degree, what sucked about it is that here I'm trying to take notes and trying to like give myself quick hand reminders when I can't be fully present in this conversation. And what I really need to be doing is being fully present and asking those deeper questions. And there are different ways. I mean, now, we have Plod, we have different ways to record our conversations, which I think all enhances that. But that doesn't help. And this is where I think that our minds were coming together. That doesn't necessarily solve the problem of like, okay, great. Now as a salesperson, I have the notes.
And this is what I interpreted, right? It doesn't mean it's okay. Yeah.
That person just left and they have their own time frame, their own prerogatives. They're looking and talking to other people. And how many times as companies, even in market, print is dead? Well, okay, let's be honest. Like sometimes it's dead because it's costly and it's dead because we know that someone's going to go through and they collect all these things with the best of intentions and they get back to their hotel room and they throw it all out or it doesn't make the cut because why? I mean,
it sits in my backpack for like 4 weeks until I do a clean out. I'm like, oh, I remember this. Yeah.
Right. Well, half the time really on the road, I mean, what you find is like, it just doesn't make it back. So then we start shrinking things. We put QR code things and we're handing these out. Well, that doesn't always, it doesn't prompt enough. Now I've got to take another activity. Like I've got to make another effort as the end user outside of that conversation to go back to what I saw, where I think really where you and I were getting to was kind of a wonderful like blend of the information's right there. It's at my fingertips as an end user. So I can get right back to it. But also, and this is what made my sales and marketing heart sing, I know what that person really was interested in and did even when I wasn't standing there with them.
Right.
And I think that's huge.
And it's huge. And it expands more than just like a one scan thing, because there are QR companies out there that can do that for you as well. It's part of their offering. But what we like to look at, and this is going to go back to that emotional capital, this is going to go back to being top of mind and standing out, is they scan at an event, they get put into a portal or an own space that is themed, right? Themed for that company, right? And I think the value that you should be bringing in those spaces that is a direct to prospect space, not just social media feed coming through. Take a lot of the education, a lot of the value that you're bringing on a lot of those channels around awareness and what's going on, and use it in those channels where you have a direct, where you can start to build a direct relationship. And what we also aim to do at Magnetic is to start to be able to connect those people together too. I'll give you an example of, I used to be a management consultant at, then I used to work in treasury space for financial services. So not treasury at a regular company, but like with the banks, very niche, right? And I had no concept of all of this stuff before I came and I really launched Magnetic. And I always tell people, if I were to go back and they wanted to hire me back, I would say you have to allow me to like build community around this offering. Because if you don't, I'm not going to try to sell out there because it's just not going to be worth it for me. And what I would do is I have specific things about that interest stripe. So I want to attract people that care about treasury and financial services. So how do I do that? Not about telling them about how great my consulting firm is and all of the stuff that we can do for them. No, I want to bring them together. I want to connect them. I want to be the one that's overseeing that. And then I want to be coming in with like, hey, everybody, know you're really busy. Just read this new regulation that came out. Here's boom, boom, boom. Hope you have a good day, right? And you have a dedicated space where you're giving them value nonstop, right? And lo and behold, you're going to sit there in a month or something like that, and you're going to have people coming to you who are already qualified, who already know what they want because you were able to get top of mind, right? And some call this community, but I really called it a shared interest space, right? That's really what we're all aiming to do. And what social media does right now is a proxy. It does its best based on what it's learned from everyone's interest to send your content to that person. But you don't own that relationship. And one day it may go to them. And then 3 days later, you have a banger post and they won't even see it because they control all of that. And so that's the concept of owned, right? And so
and then we've gotten into the pay to play and,
yes.
And all of these, like, I mean, we were having an offline conversation earlier today about WhatsApp and LinkedIn. And, I literally was lamenting to Tyler and saying, I'm like, every other message I get in LinkedIn at this point is, some paid inbox, or in-mail service or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating that it's causing me to overlook real connections that are reaching out because it's sort of like what's the incentive to look at the ding again? Oh, great. It's just going to be more spam. I mean, same thing's happening in WhatsApp. And, I'm not, going to say that, LinkedIn absolutely as a distribution channel or any of these social, they are distribution channels. And that's something that we talk about a lot in marketing communities. It's, it's not where your, it's not, how do I put this? It's not where your,
relationship
it's not
building.
Where your data, thank you. It's yeah. I'm going to like stumble on my words.
No. And I think
get the idea.
To that point, if you think about traditional marketing funnel, top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel, where you're actually doing the sale, social media is an undefeated top of funnel awareness, start to figure out who your customers are and where they are. And I always say, and this actually goes into a little bit of what you talked about in the beginning, the funnel gets you to the transaction, but for us, it doesn't end there anymore. Magnetic is part of that funnel, more middle bottom, where there's a lot more intent. But where we shine is taking them from that and then not disconnecting the experience. Like we actually bring them into a place where they emerge from that funnel, not only as a buyer, or maybe they weren't ready to buy at the time, but it's a nurture point, right? And so if you're nurturing these people that you're spending all of this money, time, and effort to capture, and then just kind of letting them go when they're done, right? Like you should be doing more with that because it is getting more expensive on digital marketing as it has become more mature, right? And that expense is not only money, but that expense is attention. And we can't overlook that attention is one of the most valuable currencies right now in business. It really is. I hate to say it. I lament it because everyone optimizes their hooks and whatnot to get attention. Think about all the times you open up social media and what people talk about. I often joke that like the best posts on social media are about how to be successful on social media because it is such a important thing to
because everybody wants to know the deep dark secrets.
Exactly. But and so that's really if you want to picture like where Magnetic aims to create something that doesn't really exist right now as an end-to-end solution, that's where we play. And we're really big on the loyalty, retention, and again, building that emotional capital. Because if you do that, people will buy more from you. They will tell people about you. We have tools to help empower them to talk about it and incentivize them if you wish. And at the end of the day, you don't have to be so focused on spending on acquisition. You should still do it. I'm not saying don't do acquisition. It's really important. But you don't have to play as much of a numbers game, right? To then hope that they filter up to become a really strong, loyal customer. There's this really great study that they did. That says, just real quick, because this ties into it. The amount of ROI that businesses get turning a 3-star customer to a 5-star customer is multiples more than turning that 1-star to a 3-star. And the moral of that story is you can't please everyone, and not everyone that buys from you is going to make their way to the top. But if you do focus your effort on the ones that have the potential to become those super loyal buyers, you can actually stretch the amount of growth in crazy ways with less effort and money.
Well, I mean, we know it costs less to retain your customers than it costs to, it costs way more to get new customers. So, I mean, this is just another tool in your toolbox in order to help, stay sticky to your customers, stay close to them. And I think it's, as we continue to change with our behaviors, with the amount, look, AI is changing the amount of content that's coming out.
Totally.
And there's a reason why they call it AI slop. To some degree, some of it actually isn't really slop. It's just, there's so much of it. It's just, it's like a sea of information, a sea of content. And, many marketers I know, I myself included, are starting to say like, oh, well, wait, hold the phone. We're not trying to be everything to everyone, nor are we trying to post nonstop all the time, constantly. Like, it's about quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that at this point, you can really water down your brand if you don't think about the actual quality. Is there research behind what you're saying? Have you, are you presenting real value? You're not just like, hey, it's me. That's great, but you're getting into those vanity metrics. You're getting more into awareness, and that is part of your strategy, but that's not all of your strategy. And I think that's a disconnect that some people make. And it's sort of like they get really hung up these days sometimes on, well, why aren't we getting, likes and comments and more viewers? And to some degree, a lot of times I look at it and I go, well, where's your original thought? How are you showing up? I just had a conversation with Dan Nessel about executive positioning, because there's no soul or depth to what's being put out there. Why do you think I went into a podcast? Now, I've wanted to do it for a long time, but I realized that what was missing, even from my own strategy, was Chelsea Stuck's voice and Chelsea Stuck's opinions. And, in my own growth, right? And so that's why I went down this path. And I didn't want it just to be, let me teach you now how to do, 5 things on Instagram. But that's not me. That's not
there's
what,
also,
that's not what gets me up.
There's a million people doing that as well. And that wouldn't be authentic.
And correct. Exactly. 100%. And so that's why it's like, let's look at these new technologies. Part of why, I invited and wanted to talk to you, and I've stayed very close to your development as an entrepreneur, your development in your tech, is because that's really fascinating to me. That's really interesting to me. Like, where are you going to go with this, and what are we going to learn, and how can we leverage this as sales professionals and as marketers to do right by our customers and do right by our brands? So I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about just all of the information. We even gave a great example, I think, of the type of activities, people scanning QR codes. Now, as a salesperson, you can walk away and exactly what that person was interested in. Is there a surprising customer signal that you've seen now that you've been like watching on the back end people's behaviors, that you think now in tracking this data, salespeople miss, overlook? Or is there something that's really jumped out to you that you've learned through this process of like, oh my God, I can't believe we always miss X? I'm just sort of curious.
Yeah. I think there's a huge opportunity that people are missing with current digital landscape of, I don't want to call it gamification, but there's like gamification collection, feeling like you're getting something in return for action. And so one thing about Magnetic that we do is we call ourselves a very creative forward platform. Almost every single activation that you do, it requires a thumbnail like social. It requires content. Well, it doesn't require content behind it, but it requires a thumbnail. kind of like visually, because that's where our brains are going. We're getting so trained on all of this. This isn't like I think newsletters are amazing, and they actually mirror a lot of what I'm talking about with an own audience where you're educating and everything like that. But they're sitting in a medium that's stuck with the spam crap that you get, maybe emails from your kid's school. Like, you're just not in the right mindset to be able to engage all of the time with that. And it's not really a visual medium. It's a lot of writing and text, and then it reverts you out and it sends you all across the internet, right?
It's also easy to lose. I run into that issue of I get so many great marketing emails and all, I study all these different people and their viewpoints.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, I'm like, oh my God, I have 10 emails to review that I haven't had time. Now, luckily for me, there's things now in AI that can help me summarize and learn learn from them quicker. But that's not the case for everybody. I mean, we are a far cry from everyone using AI, even to nearly the capacity that will be what it's going to be in the next few years in business. So what I like is that I now have that place I can go and find this information when I'm ready for it.
Yes, it's so interesting. Like, we're coming with a different platform, and the biggest criticism we get objection we get from people is like, well, I'm going to send my people to yet another platform. And we've been coming back at them lately, and we're like, listen, this isn't your typical top of funnel awareness, like grab people out of the ether that you don't know. Like, this is for people who likely already have intent. So if you don't have the confidence that someone likely already has intent, will take the extra step, and we try to make it as frictionless as possible to do this, right? Then you need to be having a conversation with yourself about, I don't mean to put it back on people, but like, it is a really easy, natural place that people go, because I think we have so much fatigue, right? And that's why we aim to not be a place that someone goes to get bombarded with things. It's a place that they've already said, like, I'm interested in this thing, thus I've opted into, and that is something that I'm going to engage with. And like, going back to the newsletter piece, that is really what we're kind of doing when we opt into newsletters. But we're taking that concept and we're making it visual, and we're allowing you to bring in promotion as well. If you want to give discounts or this or that, all in the same place. If you want to do polling, if you want to have people share things out to social on behalf of you, all of those things sit in one place. So as the operator of these campaigns, you don't have to be piecing all of these things together using 5 different solutions. You may even save money for not having to subscribe to things for one-offs. And that's where we take the approach. So we're not necessarily bringing something completely new to market. And that actually shows that this behavior is being recognized as valuable. We're just bringing it into a different channel so that you can actually own that in a more meaningful way in a medium that's becoming more popular with the way we engage.
And I mean, and I see both sides of it. I mean, I completely understand. We've had that discussion about, okay, it's yet another place that people need to go, and what's the pushback on that? That said, where, I definitely align with you is I think if the value that you bring in that space is so high and so unique and the experience is good, then honestly, I mean, look, how many years ago did Blue Sky, come out, right? I mean, like, we're constantly there are new platforms and new places that we go and we become communities. I mean, I wasn't even a Discord member. Discord was not a thing for me until 3-4 years ago, I think, at this point. I mean, and even now, yes, I do struggle to maintain as much attention to that channel as I want to give it, but it's on the back of my mind because I know the value of what's in there, and it's there for when I do have time. So I hear both sides of it. This is part of why I wanted to talk to you a little bit further about it, because I can also appreciate that as an entrepreneur. I mean, you're going against the grain a bit. So how has that journey been? I mean, when I first met you, it was like we were talking blockchain and like all kinds of tech stuff that I was like, okay, that's kind of over my head, like yes and no. And you're not even talking about that now. So
I as much as
this developed for you?
Yeah, as much as I love that stuff. And if you give me an inch, I will take it a mile, which we're not going to do right now.
That's a different podcast, everybody.
That's a different. Oh my God, that's a different podcast altogether. But
we'll do it at some point, because I can't tell you how many people need to know.
It's more than just the hype and the rug pulls and all that stuff. But the entrepreneurial journey on this is, we came in, we had a gut feeling that this is something that needed to exist. The market also shifted. Our behaviors also shifted. We recognized that, and now I didn't come from, you heard I was in financial services consulting for Treasury, right? Like I didn't come from this world. But I think that actually allots me some advantages to where I don't have a decade's worth of biases on like, well, this is how we've always done it. So I'm coming in from the outside, taking a look at what everyone's doing, where the puck is going, and we're building towards that vision of what we're seeing. And it is heartening, albeit it's bad out there. It's heartening to see that things are moving in that direction, which gives us that opportunity to have these conversations with a lifelong sales and marketing person like yourself. And I don't think you've been disagreeing with a lot of what I'm saying. Like we're having a very good repertoire. And so like that has really been my journey as a founder. The building, I could do all day. I'm sure all founders would be like, oh my God, I just want to like work in product all day and make this feature and make that feature. But you learn that it's not field of dreams. You don't build it and they will come. You have to get out there. And yes, we're going against the status quo. And I think at some point we kind of said that we have to be contrarian and we just can't be bashful about doing that. And that's really where a lot of the unlock is. It's like, yeah, go out. If you piss some people off because their livelihood is tied to the existing system, like that means it's working. That means you're doing something right, you know? And we see this all the time with all the biggest unicorns. They didn't come in and just take a mousetrap and make it better. No, they created a new way that we engaged, that we ordered cabs, right? That we booked hotels, that we interacted with one another, that we built software, right? Salesforce was one of the first SaaS companies, and that completely transformed the industry. And so there is a lot of scariness in being first, but there's also a lot of upside. And it helps that it's also changing behavior in a way that me and my co-founder, Kaylin, want to see the world in, where we're not constantly getting psychologically hacked every single day. And we're actually leaning into things that we care about, and we're engaging in that way. We think it could become more fruitful on both the business and the customer consumer side.
Well, you mean you don't want the principles of like gambling to be like influencing your purchasing decisions? I don't know.
I do think gamification, when done the right way, like we do have an affinity for collection. We do have an affinity for status. We do have an affinity for like, that's kind of why traditional loyalty works a little bit right now. It's like, oh, buy and you get to this tier and you get this thing. So like those types of triggers in our head do work. But we want to tie that to more emotional capital, like I was talking about, like I defined earlier, and not necessarily transactionally. Because let's be honest, your biggest fan might not be the one that opens up their pocketbook the most, because maybe they can't, right? But they may be in rooms that you're not, and they're talking people's ear off about you. And are you capturing that in a traditional 100%. Loyalty program? No, you're not. But if you're engaging with someone, you're building that connection, you're giving them the tools to do that on behalf of you. Now, this is where some real magic happens. And it's tough to quantify, which is why we also created the tech to help you put metrics around it and stuff like that. But yeah. Yeah,
no, that's a really fair discussion. And I think, you know, again, and we've had many discussions about this. Are people going to go to something else? Are they not? You know, where are we going? As, you know, marketers, where are consumers going? Where are people spending their time? I mean, I think you are absolutely right in that we can debate this all day long, but the reality is that I spend my time where I feel welcome. I spend my time where I get value. I spend my time where I have a good experience. I spend my time with people that I like. And so all of these, you know, everything that you're doing, to me, it's a no-brainer that yes, it might not be for everyone, and it might not be for every industry. I mean, we've had that discussion where I've said, "Ooh, I can really see value, you know, in certain verticals," but also in getting to know the way that you're thinking and in the way that I approach, I think, strategy. You know, I'm always looking for inspiration from like left field. Like I don't want to do things the same as everyone else. Now, I will make an argument that there are certain disciplines that you need. And sometimes what we do as a company is we help people learn those disciplines of getting their brand out there, proving things, getting comfortable with finding their language, you know, starting to feel what it feels like. Oops, I got a little controversial there. What do I do? And when you go through those exercises, it all becomes easier over time. Just like I told you, I said, you know, I've done enough. I have not done a lot of podcasts, but I've done enough now that this time I felt much more comfortable just sitting down, turning it on. Let's go. Let's have this discussion. And it's also the beauty of editing. I'm not going to lie. Like, editing is the amazing. Dog chirps off in the corner. You'll never know. Like, it's all good.
I've had a baby crying this entire time and you can't even hear it.
I didn't hear any of it.
No, there's no baby crying, but I was just saying, like, even if I did, you wouldn't know. The editing tools are that
That's
good.
the point.
Yeah. But one thing I wanted to say is, like,
yeah, I was gonna say, what else would you like to share, since we're having this conversation? I know we've kind of meandered away from our traditional beats, but I also think that we've uncovered a lot of important parts of the discussion that people should be considering.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's been such a natural connection with you and a partnership with you, is because everything that you just talked about, where it's like the fundamentals of finding your voice, doing the approvals, knowing what your creative is, that is still very much necessary for what we propose. In fact, if you don't have that, we found if people don't have that coming in to use our platform, you will not get good value out of our platform. These are fundamentals to any brand. And then the rest is, what channels do you go to and what purpose are you going to those channels? Our argument is people are using a set of channels right now, and the purpose is for awareness and acquisition. And those channels are great for that. And we're saying you should be taking into consideration even a fraction of that budget should be going towards platforms that are tailored towards, okay, once we get them down the funnel, how are we then maintaining and nurturing, right? And you're still bringing those same core principles that you talk about to that, right? But maybe you're able to speak in a different way because you're not talking to everybody. You're talking to the people that are already there, right? You're talking to the people that know
Clubhouse.
you.
It's the clubhouse
it's the clubhouse. About. Like, you're gonna the politician is gonna say a different stump speech than they do to the donors that are all in, right? Just to use an analogy that I think everyone can understand, right? Not in a nefarious way, but you just have a different level of comfort with those people that are already in. And I actually argue being able to have that connection, or at least some channel where you can go back and forth two-way. Now you can learn from them. Hey, what did you think about this? Right? They now have an emotional interest. They will answer you. Like, I don't know if you've tried doing email surveys, but like the answer rate is not very good, right? Like,
don't tell everybody. No, I'm joking. Sometimes it's good. It depends. It depends on how motivated that audience is that you're sending it to actually to provide the response, and how invested they are with the brand that's asking for the response. Because if they don't care about you to begin with, then nobody's responding because nobody cared to begin with.
And you don't want their answer because it may not even be aligned in the right thought process.
That's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
I love maybe that's kind of where we wrap up, is on that clubhouse analogy, because I think it is really important to note that is something that I instantly saw and connected with. Again, put the, people going to different platforms. We all change behaviors. Everything changes with time. Like, we are all, and I joked about this with Nessa on my last podcast, we were all one kiss cam moment away from everything changing. And I can do that now because 6 months from now, it will still ring true because everybody knows that moment.
Everybody knows it. The public shame that man got, you got to feel bad for him in some sense too, even though it was a nefarious thing.
We are not going to curiously stuck that one. I'll tell you that. No, we're not. But the point is that when you after you've done all of this work, to get people, whether you're fishing for new people or it's people that already know you, and you need somewhere to put them. You need somewhere to bring everybody together in a digital community. And that is, yes, there's lots of different ways we can go about this. I think you're just another option with some really cool features. And I think, I love where you are going and where you're thinking. And I know in just the short time that we've, been friends and in cahoots together about different ideas, how much that's changed even in your own messaging and your own platform and the way that you're doing things. So I think it's great. I think that more businesses should be thinking this way. Okay, you did all the work. Now, where do all these people live? How do you keep communicating to them? Because, I'm not going to, toss aside traditional marketing methods, but those are distribution methods. Yeah. And I think that at some point in time, you also have to have a place where you can regularly reach your inside little, your group of people, your fans. We talk about
customer board of directors is what I kind of like to call it, right?
Ooh, I like that. Mm-hmm. I really like that.
Cracker Barrel could have used that, right? Before they went and made their decision, saved themselves a lot of money. Just as a tangible example. Yeah, I know.
Poor Cracker Barrel. And and if there's any lesson from that, and I've read enough that I'm feeling more confident, like I know all that's going on there, not just the whole complete backlash. It does sound like some serious missteps happened in the process to getting that new brand and that shift out there. But wouldn't it have been great, like you said, if you had a whole fan base that you could have, I don't know, surveyed, tested,
or even just capture the people from each geographic that have gone and visited you the most time based on credit card data, gotten them together and said, hey, everybody, you come here the most. What do you think? Right? Like you don't even need a fancy platform like Magnetic to do that. It's just a matter of using talking to your customer, talking to your end customer. At the end of the day is something that the technology today has created an ecosystem where you don't have to, and you can get insights on them. And I think that's created a little bit of complacency on the part of our businesses.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Well, Tyler, is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners out there that you think is just a really important takeaway, or I don't know, like what else can we learn from you today, Tyler?
No, we've talked about a lot. The one thing that I started with, I want to anchor with, the key to sustainable business in our estimation is building that emotional capital. And I like calling it emotional capital because it's something that you can visualize that like you're earning, right? Because everything in business is growth. And alongside your revenue, you should be growing that emotional capital, because that emotional capital will blossom into additional revenue. So that is the one thing, if someone wants to take something from it, it's thinking in terms of emotional capital when you're making decisions as well. Not always transactional.
Nice. I like it. That'll be added to my nomenclature now. Emotional capital.
Spread the word. Spread the word.
Just like, what was it? Event intelligence. And I was like, the next day I saw an email or something for you. I was like, yeah, that was our conversation.
Let's go. I credit you with that. That was your
love it.
And I was like, I'm taking it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I was gladly giving it. Right. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tyler. I'm sure this is the first of many conversations. I just have this feeling that part of Curiously Stuck is going to be like, I'm coming back to this person because now what's happening and this changed and this happened. So thank you so much for spending time with us. And I can't wait to see where Magnetic goes.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.